the chair for next two presentations. So I introduce the next presenter, Ken Brandt, from the Robson Planetarium, United States. His title is Best Practices in Broader Programs. So I inform you the time duration, like, can you hear that sound? Oh, so I ring a bell, 5 minutes remain, final 1 minute, and run out with your 20 minutes. So then let's please start.
Good evening. Hopefully you're seeing my PowerPoint slide 1 on the screen.
Yes, it's okay.
Good. Okay. I'm Ken Brandt. I direct the Robinson Planetarium and Science Center in Lumberton, North Carolina in the United States, which is on the east coast of the United States and the southeastern part of the country. So my presentation is all about virtual planetarium presentations and other virtual things I've done to succeed in spite of the pandemic. To keep the bottom line is keep the planetarium in the public eye, both in my school district locally and regionally in our various professional organizations, and in fact internationally is what I'm doing right now, because you're all seeing the logo for my wonderful planetarium. Now, I was motivated to start working very hard on virtual planetarium presentations because of an event that happened about almost 4 years ago in my past. This building that you're seeing here is the building that housed the Robinson Planetarium and Science Center. And this brown stuff is water. That is the Lumber River having overflooded its banks as a result of Hurricane Matthew back in October of 2016. So imagine one day you go into work in a planetarium and science center, and the next day it's under 4 feet of water. And that's exactly what happened. We left work Friday afternoon, thought, okay, it's going to be a tropical storm, maybe a Category 1 hurricane, it'll blow by, and we'll just get some rain. We ended up getting 24 inches of rain over a space of about 10 hours. And that completely overran our low-lying area with water all over the city of Lumberton and Robinson County, which is where I work, and my part of North Carolina. There was a lot of flooding, roads washed out. It was a disaster of epic proportions for our part of the world. And it changed the way I do business. Instead of doing planetarium programs in my brick and mortar planetarium, now I had to do planetarium programs in an inflatable planetarium in somebody else's room, which is what I did for almost 3 years, and then COVID happened. So as soon as we were all sent home, I began to plot and scheme. I am not going to let this pandemic stop me from doing astronomy outreach and delivering programming to people as much as I can. So I started off by doing local in-services, training teachers about things like phases of the moon, seasons, the planet Mars and exploring Mars, and did grade level appropriate lessons for the teachers so they could deliver content for their students once they returned to seeing them, and did that. I wrote a series of articles for our local newspaper, again, with the idea of keeping the planetarium out there in the community, reminding people, yes, we have a planetarium still, even though right now it's operating from a Zoom room. Mashing content together using QuickTime Pro and assembling virtual programming. Most of that virtual programming was based on NASA information or ESA videos and websites. That's the content portion of my planetarium programs. I watched other planetarians make their foray into virtual programming and watched how their shows worked and didn't work, and saw the good and bad things and learned lessons from them and learned my own lessons. For example, when you set up your Zoom room, you have to click on your personal Zoom room when you're setting up Zoom, otherwise you get some random room that nobody has the address for, that you've given everybody the address for your Zoom room ahead of time, and no one has the address. And so you end up, standing up like 3 or 4 or a couple of dozen people before you realize there's nobody here. And I know there were people who made reservations. Where did they all go? And then finally it dawned on me, one of my friends who was in the program emailed me and said, hey, the Zoom room is empty. So I had to learn from my own errors as well. And I did a lot of reaching out to libraries and astronomy clubs and other organizations in the region beyond my local school district to start to make professional inquiries about doing virtual programs for them. So virtual programs began March 28th, and all programs run in Zoom. They have an ID and password requirement, so Zoom bombing hasn't happened to me yet, knock on wood. Everybody is muted on entry. We have moderation by teachers, or I'll moderate in the case of a public program. The topics for the programs include things like the Perseverance rover on its way to Mars now, Opportunity, having roved Mars for almost 15 years, SpaceX and their human spaceflight endeavors, the Hubble Space Telescope, New Horizons, even moon phases for virtual programs being done for younger audiences like 3rd grade or lower, or 8-year-olds. And the Dragonfly-Huygens mission upcoming to Titan even. So we're doing some past programs, some present programs like Perseverance, and some future programs like Dragonfly and Huygens. All programs end with a night sky view. I use Stellarium, and the settings include setting the time to 2100 local time, whatever that is for you, and start in the western part of the sky here in the northern hemisphere. The landscape on Stellarium is set to Mars, so I have no trees or other things blocking view of low to the horizon stars or planets. And only labeled objects get shown at magnitudes 5 or higher, or lower, I should say. A lot of opportunities for partnership arose because of my endeavors with virtual programming. The Emil Buehler Perpetual Trust Planetarium in St. Mary's, Florida, some gifted and talented magnet schools in Raleigh, the Charlotte Astronomy Club, York County Public Library in South Carolina, Roper Mountain, also in South Carolina, are many examples of the partnerships that we've been able to forge with different organizations that are very far away from Lumberton to do virtual programming and to team up with other professionals to help deliver virtual programming to their audiences or to my audiences. Professional development in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The 7th habit is sharpening the saw, making sure you remain sharp and focused, and keeping your brain sharp, essentially. So a lot of professional development being given. As you can see, the 136 virtual planetarium programs and counting. Tomorrow we'll make 137. There's another one happening tomorrow. 25 virtual classroom presentations to teachers in the district that I teach in. 3 presentations on various different topics for the Dome Dialogues group from the International Planetarium Society. The telecon for Museum Alliance and Solar System Ambassadors, which is a nationwide volunteer program NASA runs out of the Jet Propulsion Lab in California, the Solar System Ambassador. And presentations at various different conferences, including, of course, this one, the Global Hands-On Universe Conference. And received all kinds of training as well, because I have to keep my brain learning. Otherwise, I'm not as productive and I'm not as effective as an educator. So marketing and outreach, getting the word out across the community. Within my district, of course, I've got the help of our public affairs coordinator who posts things for me, but also things get posted for me by the Solar System Ambassadors Program. So people, for example, from Tennessee, I had somebody from Tennessee, another state, in a program today that I was running that heard about it from the Solar System Ambassadors. The North Carolina Science Festival, which is a statewide program of science programming, advertises my programs on their website. So a lot of people from around the state of North Carolina will attend. So a lot of partnerships with these two organizations. Now, I can't do this without the support of my administration, my local administration. This is kind of an old picture, but standing at the podium there is, standing at the podium there is Dr. Robert Locklear. He's my supervisor. And Dr. Locklear, here's what when I say, Dr. Locklear, I'd like to try this. Go ahead, Ken, do it. So I enjoy complete support of my administration. And I can't tell you how valuable that is. As somebody who works in a public school system, I have a lot of intellectual freedom and a lot of freedom to try new things and try new ideas, as long as there's some kind of grounding based in sound educational practice. I'm going to get to do it. And there I am in the background. This is a school board meeting. And there I am in the background. They're supporting Dr. Locklear while he's speaking. So over 2,000 screens reached so far. And because I say screens instead of attendees, because you have no idea who's behind that Zoom screen you're watching. It might be an entire classroom full of students that are behind there. For a small rural planetarium, that's not a bad thing. I think I've done a pretty good job of keeping the Robinson Planetarium out there in the community, both locally, regionally, and internationally even. So I wanted to give up the remainder of my time to ask if anyone else has success stories from the virtual planetarium world that they'd like to share briefly. Because we are a community of learners, and I thought offering up a little bit of time to the other members of my community might not be a bad thing.
Well, I am just going to say quick, Ken, that I have not really started with the virtual programming yet, but it's nice to know that some people have gone through and done the work already, so that I can kind of piggyback on your expertise when it comes time for me to start really doing this.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
So in Japanese case, most of the public school have a difficulty to make such a virtual system because of some security policy or such a thing of the local government. So in the formal education scenes, this virtual studying, virtual learning is not widely spread yet in this condition, still in this condition. But of course, very enthusiastic teachers, so such a some people try to make such a Zoom classroom or such a things. How about the situation in the US and other countries, of course, Europe? Is there some difference of the public formal information scenes and the science museum, planetarium, the somewhat independent institute or independent laboratories? They can try by their own responsibility.
There are many independent museums and science centers that are doing virtual programming as well. We have, I guess I have an advantage in that I already have an audience that I can fall back on. Like in 2 weeks, we'll be starting our virtual planetarium programs for all the third grade classrooms in our district. So we'll have class by class, they'll roll through the planetarium and have a virtual planetarium program. And so that's, I think there's a little bit more freedom for an independent institution, but I don't know because I'm not at one. So I can't really speak to that.
Okay, and here is one question for you from One Declared Melo. Hi Ken, we are planning to conduct some virtual sessions early in September using Stellarium, and we're happy to share the experience. So it's a comment and thanks to you.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully if you have questions, of course, there's my email right there. You can email me. I'll be happy to answer any questions you got about how the mechanics of setting Stellarium up and actually sharing that particular screen in Zoom, because it's kind of tricky the first couple of times you do it. Because you have to go to full screen, And Zoom sometimes will stop sharing when you go from partial screen to full screen. So you just have to be patient with Zoom, and sometimes you actually have to share it when it's in full screen mode. It helps if you have more than one monitor screen. I don't. I just run off of one MacBook. So I don't. It would help if you have more than one screen.
This is a question from Alan Good. Can you summarize what technical assistance you'd recommend? For example, some want to monitor the chat or something to make a communication smoothly.
Yes, if possible, get somebody to moderate the chat for you. That way you can concentrate on running your program. Okay. That way you can concentrate on running your program and interacting with your audience. And in some ways too, having that chat moderator to interrupt you can promote interaction. It can actually help you to, if nothing else, force you to stop to answer a question and then to pose other questions and get some more interaction out of your audience. One of the difficulties I've had is getting a lot of interaction from my audiences. It takes a lot of clever strategies, such as pausing and circling a part of the image with your cursor and saying, okay, what is this doing? Or what is this? What is happening in this image? And have the audience tell you, have the students unmute and actually tell you what they think is happening, to try and promote some discussion. And especially in this environment, value every answer you get. No matter how far-fetched it may seem, try and validate the person asking the question to promote more interaction. You want to establish a rapport and a relationship with your audience.
Okay,
Alan should know something about that.
So maybe if there's any question, one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone have a question? There's so many comments that thank to your wonderful presentation on the chat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So recently, I experienced a virtual reality VR chat system that we put avatar in the virtual space. So such a full dome system or experiment or somewhat body sense experiment hands-on system can be progress. In the future, if we use such a virtual reality Google or such a thing much more easier, maybe not just such a screen size communication, but more hands-on, interactive, or experiences virtual program will be coming future, I think. So please progress your trial to tell me again.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just 1 minute or so. Do anyone have any questions? Can you have your final message for the audience?
Yes, if you email me, I'll be more than happy to send you the link to our virtual programs, and you can come and see what we're doing for yourselves. We do programs every day at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So that's 1400 Universal time. I'll be happy to send you Zoom link information and everything else if you want to see what the actual programs look like. Tomorrow's program is all about SpaceX and human space exploration. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your wonderful talk.